Japan is marking 1 year to go for the Olympic Games with a low-key ceremony at the National Stadium in Tokyo, which was scheduled to host the opening ceremony of the 32nd Summer Olympic Games on Friday. The coronavirus pandemic forced the postponement of the Olympics for the first time since the Second World War. The International Olympic Committee, the IOC, and the Japanese government have jointly decided at the end of March to reschedule the Games by exactly 1 year, and the 2021 Games will begin on the 23rd of July. The IOC was categorical that the fairness and integrity of the qualification process had to be maintained, with more than 40% of the athletes still to earn their places at the Olympic Games. New qualification tournaments and timelines have been announced, with the schedule of the Games staying exactly the same, but they have just been postponed by 1 year. The celebrations are centered around the Olympic flame and also pays tribute to the resilience of the athletes and the Olympic movement to bounce back from this pandemic. Confusion, though, still prevails over the possibility of the Games going ahead next year if a vaccine is not readily available. Japan has spent in excess of $3 billion for the Games to develop infrastructure and remains keen that the Games aren't held without the fans. Joining us on this broadcast is WION correspondent Grace Lee. And Grace, exactly 1 year to go now for the Olympic Games, which were scheduled to begin now as we speak. A small ceremony has been planned, but doubts still remain whether the Olympics will even go ahead 1 year from now if the coronavirus pandemic continues, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the big question here. And we've heard a lot of mixed messages from Olympic officials, some saying that we won't be able to go ahead if there's no vaccine, others saying that maybe we can go ahead but with limited spectators. They all seem to agree that if we do go ahead with the Olympics next year, it will look a lot different than previous Olympics. For one, they keep talking about a simplified version of the Olympics, and that means a lot less glitz and glamour, a lot less personnel, and of course a lot more social distancing between athletes, personnel, and spectators. So that's the gist that we're getting so far. But what we do know is the Olympic Committee is coming up with about 400 different ideas to try and make sure that the Olympics can be held in the safest way possible. And for now, it seems like they are adamant to push ahead with it no matter what.
Absolutely. Japanese government had expected that 40 million visitors would visit Japan this year. Obviously, it's going to be nowhere close to that figure. I'll just gonna, put out figures of a recent survey that has been conducted by a news agency in Japan this Sunday over phone. They asked over 1,000 people in Japan over the state of the Olympic Games, and the study says that 24% of the respondents are in favor of holding Olympic Games in the summer of 2021. That's only 24%, that is 1/4. And 36%, they would support another delay to the Games if the situation is not gotten under control. So, the Japanese public itself is not too much looking forward to the Olympic Games given the current scenario.
Yeah, it seems so. And we keep seeing that number of the Japanese public supporting the Olympics shrink as we get further and further into this pandemic. A lot of them saying, well, look at Tokyo's numbers. Tokyo hit, by the way, another new record today with over 300 cases of COVID-19. And so the public here are very worried that if we have an Olympics and if we open Japan's borders to all these different countries and they have international visitors, where the pandemic isn't really subsiding, then we could see fresh cases of COVID-19 sprouting up across Japan as well. And you could understand that that is a major concern for residents here. For now, the situation in Japan does seem stable. The officials here say that hospital capacity is okay, and it seems that residents here want to keep it that way, and the Olympics is simply not the way to do that.
Absolutely. Grace, thank you so much for joining us. The Japanese authorities holding a small ceremony today to mark the day when the Olympics would have actually begun. Thank you so much for joining us. The animosity between the